As I stared at the DNA test results, my hands trembled. The same hands that had saved countless children were now holding proof that my own 3 kids weren't mine. In that moment, I realized my best friend and my wife had been hiding the ultimate betrayal right under my roof. Dr. Daisy Mueller held his surgical tools with practiced precision. His dark eyes were fixed intently on the small heart in front of him. The life of the 6-month-old patient depended on Daisy's skilled hands as he worked to correct the congenital defect. BP dropping, announced Dr. Mueller, the anesthesiologist. Daisy did not flinch. His steady hands continued their delicate movements as he ordered, "Push 0.1 of AP." The monitors beeped, stabilized, and Daisy finished the final suture with careful accuracy. "Beautiful work, as always, Dr. Mueller," remarked Dr. Shelby Chun, his assistant surgeon, as they scrubbed out. "That's the 3rd successful complex repair this week." Daisy only nodded, his thoughts already shifting to his own children at home. 3 miracles he had struggled so hard to have. Still, something about them lingered at the back of his mind. He dismissed the thought, just as he had many times before. "Going home to those beautiful kids of yours?" Shelby asked, interrupting his reflection. "Not yet. Still have rounds and paperwork," Daisy replied, his tone brief. He had learned early in his career that keeping a professional distance was essential. His reputation as Boston Children's Hospital's most formidable chief of pediatric surgery was not built on casual office conversations. In his office, Daisy gazed at the family photo on his desk. Julian and Joanna, the twins, smiled back at him with their vivid blue eyes that did not match his brown ones or Courtney's green. Joseph, their unexpected blessing 2 years later, had the same azure gaze. He recalled the years of fertility treatments, the quiet despair as they attempted to conceive, and the hushed discussions with Courtney about donor possibilities. His phone vibrated with a text from his mother. "Samuel having dinner with Dan and the kids. Don't worry about rushing home." Daisy's jaw tightened. His mother's relationship with his best friend had become increasingly odd over time. What began as occasional babysitting had developed into a close familiarity that left him uncomfortable. A knock at his door broke his concentration. "Come in," he said sharply. Devin Draper's familiar face appeared, wearing his usual relaxed smile. "Hey, Chief, heard about the Williams baby. Another miracle from the great Dr. Mueller." Daisy's expression stayed neutral, but his eyes hardened a little. "Just doing my job. Thought you were having dinner with my family. On my way there now. Wanted to see if you'd join us," Devin said, leaning against the doorframe with easy confidence. "Can't. Department meeting in 20 minutes, Daisy replied, turning back to his computer to end the conversation. "Your loss. The kids always ask for you, you know." Devin's words held a trace of something, pride or possession, that made Daisy's fingers halt over the keyboard. That evening, Daisy finally arrived home to find Devin still there, assisting Julian with math homework while Courtney and Samuel cleaned up in the kitchen. Joseph sat on Devin's lap, playing with his tie, while Joanna displayed her newest art project. "Daddy," Joseph squealed but stayed perched on Devin's knee. "Hey, stranger," Courtney called out, her tone light, but her eyes avoiding his. "We saved you a plate." Samuel came out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. "Oh, Daisy, you should have seen Julian at baseball practice today. Devin taught him a new pitching technique." "I'm sure he did," Daisy cut in, his voice sharp enough to make everyone except Devin flinch slightly. "It's getting late. Don't you have early rounds tomorrow?" "Just about to head out," Devin replied smoothly, standing and placing Joseph in the chair. "Great dinner, as always, Ava, Samuel. Thanks for the photos. I'll get them framed for the office." Daisy observed as his mother hugged Devin goodbye, noting how she held on a moment too long. He saw Courtney's quick glance away when Devin's hand brushed her shoulder in passing. He mentally recorded each interaction with the same focus he applied in surgery. After the children were in bed, Daisy found Samuel in the study arranging what looked like family photographs. "You've been spending a lot of time with Devin lately," he remarked, his tone deliberately neutral. Samuel barely glanced up. "He's practically family, Daisy, and he's so good with the children. You know how much they adore him." "Maybe too good," Daisy muttered. "What's that supposed to mean?" Samuel's hands paused over the photos. "Nothing, just an observation." Daisy picked up one picture, Devin and Julian at the last birthday party, All 3 children piled on his lap, their blue eyes matching his perfectly. Interesting choice of photos you're sharing with him. He's their godfather, Daisy, and unlike some people, he makes time for them. Samuel's words held an intentional sting. Daisy's expression hardened, but his voice stayed controlled. I save children's lives, Mother. That's what I do. Yes, other people's children. Always other people's children. Samuel gathered her photos and stood. I'm heading home. Don't worry about dropping the kids at school tomorrow. Devin's taking them. Daisy watched her leave, then took out his phone. He opened his contacts, scrolled to Lawrence Lewis's number, hesitated briefly, and typed, "Need your services discreetly. Call me tomorrow." In his home office, Daisy accessed his children's birth records on his laptop. He stared at the dates and medical details, trying to assemble a puzzle he wasn't certain he wanted to complete. The fertility treatments, Devin's constant presence, his mother's odd behavior, something did not add up. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Courtney stood in the doorway, holding a wine glass. Coming to bed, he did not look up from the screen. Daisy? Courtney's voice held concern. Is everything okay? You seem distant lately. Daisy finally turned to face his wife, studying her with the same intensity he brought to challenging diagnoses. Tell me something, Ava. During all those fertility treatments, did Devin ever consult with you, professionally or otherwise? Courtney's grip tightened on her wine glass. What? No, of course not. Why would you ask that? Just curious about the timing. He was around a lot during those years. He's your best friend. Of course he was around. Courtney's voice held a defensive edge that Daisy noted for later. Is he my best friend? Daisy turned back to his computer. Good night, Ava. After she left, Daisy opened his browser and began researching genetic inheritance patterns for eye color. As a surgeon, he had concentrated on anatomy and surgical methods, but now he found himself delving into genetics. Brown eyes and green eyes producing 3 blue-eyed children. The statistical unlikelihood bothered him like a misplaced surgical sponge, a count that did not balance. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Samuel. Don't forget Devin's taking the kids to the Science Museum this weekend while you're on call. Daisy's fingers tightened around his phone as he typed his reply. I'll make other arrangements. Then he opened his email and started composing a message to Dr. Isabella L. in genetics. It was time to begin asking the proper questions. Dr. Isabella L.'s office felt unusually cold as Daisy examined Joseph's genetic markers. On the screen before them, the patterns shifted across the display, each irregularity adding to the heaviness in his chest. I've never seen anything quite like this in a routine screening, Dr. L. admitted, her finger tracing a specific sequence. These markers usually follow very specific inheritance patterns. Have you ever had your own DNA analyzed, Daisy? Daisy started to answer, but his pager activated. 10-year-old, ruptured appendix. I have to take this, he said abruptly, standing up, his chair scraping the floor. Daisy, wait, Dr. L. called after him. There's something else. But he was already walking quickly down the hall, his white coat flowing behind him. In the surgical prep room, Daisy's hands moved automatically through the scrubbing routine while his mind raced with possibilities. The conversation between 2 nurses at the next sink barely registered until he heard Devin's name. Dr. Draper's old case files, Nurse Martinez was saying. That's odd. Why would Mercy Hospital want records from his teenage years? Something about updating their system? Turin replied. But get this, they're specifically requesting his endocrinology records. Daisy's scrubbing slowed almost imperceptibly. Endocrinology, hormone treatments, fertility. Dr. Mueller. The surgical resident's voice cut through his thoughts, patients prepped and ready. The surgery proved difficult. The appendix was more damaged than scans had shown. Daisy worked with mechanical precision, locking away his personal worries as he concentrated on saving his young patient. 3 hours later, he left the OR to find his phone flooded with notifications. 3 missed calls from Dr. L. and a text from Lawrence Lewis that made his blood run cold. Man, you need to see this. Your mother's been making some interesting money transfers. That evening, Daisy sat at the kitchen table helping Julian with his homework. His surgeon's eyes studied his son's features with new intensity. The science worksheet on genetic traits lay between them like a hazard. So if both my parents have brown eyes, Julian was saying, they can't have a blue-eyed baby, right? Daisy's pen hovered over the paper. That's generally correct. I color inheritance is complex, but Uncle Devin has blue eyes like us, Joanna added from across the table. Maybe we got them from him. The innocent remark hung in the air like smoke. Daisy kept his composure, years of managing surgical crises, keeping his voice steady. Uncle Devin isn't actually related to us, Joanna. But Grandma says he's family, Joseph chimed in. She has lots of pictures of him in her special album. Daisy's head jerked up. What special album? The one she keeps in her desk, Joseph continued, unaware of the tension coming from her father. She shows it to Uncle Devin sometimes when they think we're not looking. Before Daisy could inquire further, Samuel's voice came from the kitchen, where she was on the phone. Of course I'll keep the photos safe, Devin. The album goes back 7 years. Every meeting, every special moment. They deserve to know their real story someday. Daisy's hand clenched around his pen, the plastic cracking under his grip. The children jumped at the sound. Daddy, Joseph's voice trembled. Why don't you all go watch TV for a bit? Daisy suggested, his tone carefully controlled. I need to talk to Grandma. As the children hurried off, Daisy rose from his chair with the deliberate motion of a predator. He walked to the kitchen entrance, watching his mother end her call, and put her phone away. Interesting conversation, he asked, his voice deceptively calm. Samuel started slightly. Daisy, I didn't hear you come in. Clearly, he stepped into the kitchen, positioning himself between Samuel and the exit. Tell me about this album, Mother, the one with 7 years of special moments with Devin. Samuel's face paled somewhat, but she lifted her chin defiantly. It's just family photos, Daisy. You're always so suspicious lately. Family photos that the children deserve to know about someday. Daisy's voice carried the same precision he used when calling for surgical instruments. What exactly do they deserve to know, Mother? I only meant, Samuel began, but Daisy interrupted, 7 years. That's an interesting timeline, right around when Courtney and I started fertility treatments, isn't it? The color vanished completely from Samuel's face. Daisy, you're reading too much into things. You always do this. Always have to control everything, analyze everything. You're right, I do analyze everything. It's what keeps my patients alive. Daisy stepped closer, his presence dominating the kitchen. And right now, every analysis is telling me something's very wrong with this picture. Samuel's hand shook as she reached for her purse. I should go, it's getting late. It certainly is. Daisy watched her collect her things, noting every nervous gesture. One more thing, Mother, those money transfers you've been making, the ones matching Devin's deposits to that offshore account. We'll be discussing those very soon. Samuel froze in the doorway, her back to her son. You don't understand anything, Daisy. Sometimes people do things, make choices for the greater good. The greater good. Daisy's laugh held no amusement. Is that what we're calling fraud and conspiracy these days? Samuel hurried out without answering, leaving Daisy alone in the kitchen. He took out his phone and dialed Lawrence Lewis. I need everything you can find on Devin's medical history, he instructed without introduction. Specifically, any fertility-related treatments or conditions. And I want every detail about those financial transfers, no matter what it costs. After ending the call, Daisy walked to his home office and opened his laptop. A new email from Dr. L awaited him. Daisy, these genetic markers in Joseph's results, they indicate a pattern I've seen before in Devin's old cases. We need to talk. Daisy's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as he composed his response. Years of surgical training had taught him that sometimes you must cut deep to remove a cancer, and right now, his family had a malignancy that needed excising. Lawrence Lewis's private investigation office smelled of coffee and old paper files. The veteran PI spread photographs across his desk while Daisy stood examining them, his surgical precision now applied to analyzing surveillance shots. Your mother's quite the actress, Lawrence commented, pointing to a series of photos. Here she is playing loving grandmother. But look at the ease. He laid out another sequence. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, she arrives 10 minutes after Devin's car pulls in, always positions herself by the front windows, classic lookout behavior. Daisy picked up a photo of Devin and Courtney in what seemed like an intimate conversation on their back patio. Timing, all during your scheduled surgeries. Lawrence pulled out a thick folder. But that's not the interesting part. Take a look at these bank statements. Daisy's eyes narrowed as he scanned the documents. Regular deposits from his mother, matched by larger ones from Devon, all going to an offshore account in the children's names. Account opened 7 years ago, Lawrence added meaningfully, right when your fertility treatment started. Daisy's jaw tightened. Get me access to Devon's medical records from Mercy Hospital. Already done. Lawrence handed over another file. Took some creative maneuvering, but you might want to sit down for this one. Daisy remained standing as he read, his expression darkening with each page. Klinefelter syndrome, diagnosed in his teens. Complete sterility confirmed through multiple tests. He looked up sharply. Who's Dr. Aiden Compton? Endocrinologist at Mercy. Been prescribing testosterone treatments to your friend for years. Lawrence leaned back in his chair. Want me to arrange a conversation? No. Daisy's voice carried the same authority he used in the OR. I'll handle Compton myself. Later that day, Daisy sat in his office at Boston Children's, phone to his ear. Dr. Compton, this is Dr. Daisy Mueller. I'm consulting on a case involving one of your former patients, Devon Draper. Dr. Mueller, the pediatric surgeon? Compton sounded impressed. What's your interest in Devon's case? I'm reviewing some fertility treatment protocols, Daisy replied smoothly. Your work with him has caught my attention. A challenging case, indeed. Complete azotemia resulting from wine filters. Despite his strong insistence on maintaining appearances, he repeatedly requested documentation indicating improved sperm counts. Daisy's free hand clenched into a fist. Did you supply such paperwork? Certainly not. Compton sounded offended, yet he located someone willing to listen. Through the grapevine, it emerged that he was utilizing forged lab results to persuade some unfortunate woman of his increasing fertility. Completely unethical, of course. After concluding the call, Daisy reached out to Margarita Schaefer, the hospital's top genetic counselor. Her reputation for discretion equaled her expertise in DNA analysis. I need these tests performed immediately, Daisy explained, sliding 3 sealed envelopes across her desk. These are my children's DNA samples. Compare them against my profile in the hospital's database. Margarita raised an eyebrow. This is unusually personal, Dr. Mueller. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Absolutely, Daisy replied, his voice carrying the same unwavering certainty he brought to his most difficult surgeries. I need to know the truth. While awaiting the results, Daisy immersed himself in surgery after surgery, his scalpel cutting through flesh with controlled precision. Each incision was a rehearsal for the impending confrontation. His colleagues observed the shift in him, a new intensity behind his already formidable presence. Your DNA analysis is ready, Margarita announced 3 days later, closing her office door behind him. I ran the test twice to be certain. Daisy stood perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back, as she displayed the results on her monitor. Show me. The genetic markers are conclusive. Margarita highlighted several sequences. These children are definitely yours, Dr. Mueller. There is no question regarding paternity. Daisy's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes blazed with cold fury. You are absolutely certain? The probability exceeds 99.9%. She turned to face him directly. Which makes me wonder why you needed to verify. Because someone wanted me to doubt it, Daisy replied, his voice carrying the weight of years of manipulation. Someone orchestrated an elaborate scheme to make me question everything about my family. Back in his office, Daisy reviewed all the evidence Lawrence had gathered. Surveillance photos showing Devon's regular visits during his surgeries, bank statements revealing an intricate web of financial transactions, Dr. Compton's testimony regarding Devon's desperate attempts to conceal his sterility, the forged fertility documents, and his mother's secret photo album documenting years of calculated deception. Daisy's phone buzzed with a text from Courtney. Devon's joining us for Sunday dinner. Mom invited him. A thin smile crossed Daisy's face as he typed his response. Perfect. He opened his desk drawer and removed a vanilla envelope, carefully adding Margarita's DNA results to the collection of evidence inside. Each document represented a strand in the web of lies he was preparing to unravel. The children's graphic detail type records, the bank statements, the surveillance photos, Devon's medical history, all of it painting a picture of betrayal so profound it would have broken a lesser man. But Daisy Mueller was not just any man. He was a surgeon who held lives in his hands daily, who made decisions that meant the difference between life and death. He had spent years cultivating a reputation for being ruthless in the operating room, for never hesitating to cut out diseased tissue to save the whole. Now, looking at the evidence spread across his desk, Daisy prepared for perhaps the most important surgery of his life, excising the cancer of deception that had infected his family. Sunday dinner would be the beginning not of a confrontation, but of a reckoning. He picked up his phone one last time, dialing Lawrence Lewis. "Everything in place?" Daisy asked. "All set," Lawrence confirmed. "Recording devices installed. Security team will be in position. Your attorney has the documents ready to file first thing Monday morning." "Good." Daisy's voice carried the same command authority he used before beginning a complex procedure. Tyler McLean's house. Dr. Isabella L.'s fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up file after file on her dual monitors. Daisy stood behind her, his presence commanding even in silence, as she revealed the depth of the deception. "Look at this," she said, highlighting a section of the medical records. The graphic detail-type documentation for all 3 children was altered within hours of their births. But whoever did it didn't know about our archive backup system. Daisy leaned closer, his expression hardening. "Show me the timestamps here." Dr. Liu pulled up a log file. Every modification corresponds perfectly with Devon's hospital rotations. He used his consulting privileges to access and alter the records. "Print everything," Daisy commanded. "I want a complete audit trail." Dr. Liu hesitated. "This goes beyond medical ethics violations. This is fraud. We are legally obligated to report this to the hospital board, and we will." Daisy's voice carried the same authority he used in the operating room. "But first, I need to understand the full scope of this corruption." In his office, Daisy reviewed the evidence with methodical precision. The altered graphic detail types, the falsified genetic markers, the carefully orchestrated deception spanning 7 years. Each document added another layer to the betrayal. His phone buzzed, Lawrence Lewis requesting an urgent meeting. The PI's office was cluttered with files and surveillance equipment. Lawrence pulled up satellite images on his computer showing 3 properties in Vermont. "Your mother's busy," Lawrence explained, clicking through the photos. "All purchased through shell companies within the last year, all within walking distance of Devon's new medical practice." Daisy studied the locations. "Show me the financial trail." "That's where it gets interesting." Lawrence opened a spreadsheet. "The offshore account isn't just receiving deposits anymore. It's being used to establish new identities. Your mother's been siphoning money from multiple sources to fund what looks like an escape plan." "Elaborate." "Devon is setting up a new practice in Vermont, but it's not just any practice. He's specifically targeting fertility cases." Lawrence pulled out more documents. "He's been building a reputation in the community, making connections. Meanwhile, your mother's been quietly transferring funds, setting up trust accounts, even exploring private school options in the area." "They're planning to take my children," Daisy stated, his voice cold with controlled fury. "It gets worse." Lawrence handed over a thick file. "Remember the nurse I mentioned, Irma Monato? She reached out after seeing Devon's records being accessed. She's got quite a story to tell." Daisy opened the file, reading Irma's sworn statement. Her detailed account of Devon's obsession with fertility, his rage when his ex-wife left him, his gradual descent into fraud and deception painted a picture of a man consumed by his inability to have children. His ex-wife left him because he couldn't have kids, Irma had written. "After that, he changed, started watching your family, talking about how you didn't deserve them. He'd spend hours looking at photos of your children, saying they should have been his." Daisy closed the file, his decision made. "Set up surveillance on all 3 properties. I want to know every person who enters or leaves. And give me everything you can on Devon's new practice, patient records, financial statements, everything." "Already in progress." Lawrence pulled out another file. "But there's something else you should see. Your mother's been making regular trips to Vermont, meeting with school administrators, pediatricians, even child psychologists. She's setting up a complete support system, almost like she's preparing for a custody battle or a kidnapping. They're establishing a foundation to make it look like the children have been there all along," Daisy corrected, his medical training helping him see the pattern. "Medical records, school records, community connections, everything they'd need to create a new life." Lawrence nodded grimly. "Want me to alert the authorities?" "Not yet." Daisy stood, straightening his suit jacket with precise movements. First, we're going to let them think their plan is working. I want every piece of evidence, every connection, every conspirator exposed. When we move, it will be decisive. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. Have your team ready for Sunday dinner. I want every word, every gesture recorded. And, Lawrence, make sure the surveillance van is out of sight. My mother's gotten too good at playing lookout. As Daisy left the PI's office, his phone buzzed with a text from Courtney. Devin's bringing a special bottle of wine for Sunday. Says he has an announcement to make. Daisy allowed himself a small, cold smile. Let them think they had the upper hand. Let them believe their carefully constructed web of lies was still intact. Sunday dinner would show them exactly who they were dealing with. He spent the next 2 days preparing, gathering additional evidence, setting every piece in place. He contacted Lola Randolph, a colleague whose own experience with parental alienation made her the perfect ally. I need you to take the children Sunday evening, he explained during a private meeting in his office. Whatever happens, they shouldn't be there to witness it. Lola understood immediately. I'll make it seem like a regular sleepover. The kids love playing with my daughter anyway. By Saturday night, Daisy had prepared his own announcement, a manila envelope containing 7 years of evidence, each document carefully selected for maximum impact. He had learned from surgery that timing was everything. Each revelation would be like a precise incision, cutting away the diseased tissue of lies until nothing remained but the harsh truth. Sunday evening arrived with deceptive calm. Daisy had arranged everything with surgical precision. The children safely away at Lola's, recording devices hidden throughout the house, Lawrence's team monitoring from their surveillance van, and his attorney, Sonia Cruz, ready to file sealed court documents first thing Monday morning. The dining room table became an operating theater of sorts, with Daisy positioning himself strategically at the head, the manila envelope placed precisely beside his plate. He watched Courtney fuss with the table settings, noted how her hands trembled slightly as she arranged the wine glasses. Samuel arrived first, carrying a casserole dish and wearing an expression of barely concealed anticipation. The children aren't here, she asked, failing to hide her disappointment. Sleepover at Lola's, Daisy replied evenly. They've been looking forward to it all week. Devin arrived last, wearing an expensive new suit and carrying the promised bottle of wine. Daisy observed how comfortable he seemed, how naturally he moved through their home. 7 years of deception had made him too confident. Special occasion? Daisy asked, nodding toward the wine. You could say that. Devin shared a quick glance with Courtney that spoke volumes. They settled into their seats, a parody of a normal family dinner. Daisy watched them all, his mother's nervous energy, Courtney's forced cheerfulness, Devin's barely contained smugness. He let them serve the food, pour the wine, exchange meaningful looks. They thought he didn't notice. Halfway through the main course, Courtney cleared her throat. The wine had given her false courage, just as Daisy had anticipated. We need to talk about something important, she began, her voice slightly slurred. About the children. What about them? Daisy kept his tone neutral, letting her proceed with their rehearsed script. It's time for the truth to come out. Courtney reached for Devin's hand across the table. The children, they're not yours, Daisy. They're Tyler's. The silence that followed was perfect, heavy with their anticipation of his breakdown, his anger, his devastation. Instead, Daisy reached for the manila envelope. Interesting theory, he said, his voice carrying the same calm authority he used before making the first incision in a difficult surgery. But science tells a different story. He began laying out documents with precise movements. Devin's medical records from Mercy Hospital, complete sterility due to Klinefelter syndrome, multiple fertility tests confirming 0 sperm count. Genetic markers showing the children are definitively mine. The color drained from Devin's face as he recognized the authentic test results. Courtney's wine glass slipped from her fingers, staining the tablecloth red. That's not possible, she whispered. Devin showed me his fertility results. They were improving. Forged, Daisy stated flatly. Just like the children's graphic detail type records he altered after their births. Just like the sperm count test he bribed a lab technician to falsify. Samuel stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You don't understand anything, Daisy. You were never there. Always at the hospital, always saving other people's children while neglecting your own. Sit down, mother. Daisy's command cut through her hysteria. We're not done. Would you like to explain the offshore account, the properties in Vermont, the false identities you've been arranging for my children? How dare you? Courtney's voice rose hysterically. You're making things up because you can't accept. Everything is documented. Daisy interrupted, his voice like steel. Every transaction, every meeting, every phone call. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate when my own mother started planning to kidnap my children? Devin stood slowly, his medical training helping him recognize the authenticity of the evidence before him. Daisy, let me explain. Explain what? Daisy's laugh held no humor. How you manipulated my wife while living under my roof. How you conspired with my mother to steal my children. How you forged medical records and committed fraud. You don't deserve them. Devin suddenly shouted, his carefully maintained facade cracking. You're never there. They need a father who. They have a father. Daisy cut him off. A father who's been watching you all dig your own graves for months. Every scheme, every lie, every betrayal, all documented and ready for the courts. You can't prove anything, Samuel declared, but her voice wavered. Daisy smiled coldly. Would you like to see the surveillance photos, the bank records, the sworn statements from your conspirators? Dr. Compton was particularly interested in discussing Devin's fraudulent fertility claims. You had us watched, Courtney gasped. Like you watched me plan my surgeries so Devin could play house with my family. Use my mother as a lookout. Daisy's voice remained controlled, but his eyes blazed. The difference is, my surveillance was legal and very, very thorough. That's when Devin snapped. He lunged across the table, years of carefully constructed plans dissolving into blind rage. Daisy had anticipated this too. He stepped aside smoothly, letting Devin crash into the china cabinet while security cameras captured everything. Assault to add to your charges, Daisy noted calmly. Not very professional, Dr. Draper, but then neither is practicing medicine fraudulently. The immediate aftermath of the confrontation unfolded exactly as Daisy had planned. Lawrence's team provided real-time audio and video recordings to his attorney, while hospital security began reviewing Devin's medical credentials based on the evidence of fraud. Courtney sat amid the wreckage of their dinner party, mascara streaking her face as she alternated between threats and pleas. You can't do this to us, she sobbed. The children need their mother. The children need truth, Daisy corrected her. Not conspirators who plan to kidnap them. Samuel moved restlessly around the room, her carefully controlled composure disintegrating as she grasped the full scope of Daisy's investigation. She attempted to argue. Those properties were investments. She insisted, you're distorting everything, truly. Daisy produced additional documents. Should we talk about the counterfeit passports? He asked. You started organizing the trust funds and alternate identities, the private school enrollments in Vermont. Samuel's voice escalated hysterically. I was shielding them. From you, from your detached, clinical manner in all matters, by taking them. Daisy's tone sliced like a blade. By plotting to transport them across state borders, potentially even overseas. That isn't protection, mother. That's criminal conspiracy. Devin, tending to a sore shoulder from his unsuccessful assault, tried a new tactic. Consider what this will do to your reputation. Daisy retorted sharply. The scandal? My reputation. His laugh was biting and devoid of warmth. Let's talk about reputations, Devin, particularly your medical license. How many fertility patients have you deceived with your sham procedures? How many families received empty promises? He shifted toward his mother. Or your financial standing, mother. The hospital charity board might be curious about your money laundering through their accounts, not to mention the FBI's focus on international financial fraud. You wouldn't, Samuel whispered, at last comprehending the extent of her son's mercilessness. I am your mother. Daisy's voice was stripped of feeling. You ceased being my mother the instant you schemed to abduct my children. You are merely another offender. Then Courtney made a final manipulative effort. If you proceed, you will ruin everything. Think about the children. Daisy answered, I am considering them, which is why I have already organized specialized trauma counseling to assist them in processing their mother and grandmother's treachery. Dr. Houston is especially skilled in parental alienation cases. He observed their expressions as the complete reality of their predicament settled in. Samuel's haughty defiance collapsed when he referenced the frozen accounts, not only the offshore ones, but every single one. Courtney's smugness vanished as he elaborated on the custody ramifications of attempted kidnapping. Devon's fury shifted to dread as Daisy summarized the medical board's initial findings. "You orchestrated this," Devon accused, understanding dawning. "All of it. The dinner, the timing, as if you intended to steal my family." Daisy rebutted. "The distinction is my strategy was lawful and, starting tomorrow morning, very public." He stood, adjusting his tie with the exactness he applied in surgical preparation. "I advise you all to reach out to attorneys. You will require them. The sealed court documents will be submitted first thing tomorrow, and the hospital board convenes at 9 to examine Devon's credentials." "Daisy, please," Courtney tried one last time. "We can resolve this. Like you resolved your abduction plans, your money laundering operation, your conspiracy to perpetrate fraud." Daisy shook his head. "There is nothing to resolve. You selected your course. Now you must confront the repercussions." He walked to the door, then turned back for a final remark. "You know the ironic aspect? The children are genetically mine. All your intricate schemes, your years of deceit, were founded on a falsehood. You attempted to steal what was already mine, and in the process, you forfeited everything that was truly yours: your liberty, your standing, your futures." Daisy observed as their facades collapsed under the burden of evidence. Samuel's financial empire frozen, Courtney's custody aspirations shattered, Devon's medical profession imploding, each confronting the outcomes of their disloyalty. Their elaborate plot had failed, demolished by the very precision and commitment they had once ridiculed. "I will anticipate calls from your lawyers," Daisy stated, departing as they pondered their devastated futures. "Do not try to contact the children." He shut the door on their objections, their world of falsehoods finally revealed under the stark illumination of truth. The Boston medical community hummed with tension as Daisy's attorney, Sonia Cruz, delivered her opening statement at the custody hearing. Her heels tapped on the courtroom floor as she neared the bench, her demeanor as keen as her impeccably fitted suit. "Your Honor," she started, her voice resonating in the quiet courtroom, "what we disclose today extends well beyond a basic custody disagreement. This situation involves organized fraud, international financial offenses, and a foiled kidnapping conspiracy." Chief Judge Marcia Gentle inclined forward, her expression solemn as Sonia presented the evidence. The attorney's delivery was as systematic as one of Daisy's surgeries. "Dr. Isabella Liu, please take the stand." Sonia summoned her initial witness. Dr. Liu adjusted her glasses while being sworn in. "In my capacity as genetic counselor, I found unauthorized modifications to the children's medical records. The digital trail leads directly to Dr. Draper's login credentials." "And these alterations," Sonia prompted, "what was their nature?" "Genetic marker types, all altered to bolster a false paternity narrative. However, the hospital's archived backup system retained the original data." From his place at the plaintiff's table, Daisy watched Courtney's face twist with each piece of evidence that dismantled her defenses. Her lawyer's objections were methodically overruled as Sonia constructed her case. Lawrence Lewis testified next, displaying enlarged images of the Vermont properties on digital screens. "These residences," he clarified, indicating each site, "were acquired via shell corporations financed by Mrs. Mueller Sr.'s offshore accounts. Note their tactical proximity to Dr. Draper's intended medical practice." The private investigator's testimony proceeded as he disclosed financial documents, surveillance images, and intercepted communications. Mrs. Mueller wasn't merely investing in property. She was creating a full infrastructure for the children's disappearance: schools, medical files, even fabricated identities. Yet the most damaging testimony emerged from an unforeseen source. Vince Hayden, a former patient of Devon's, approached the stand with barely restrained fury. "Dr. Draper assured us he could aid our conception," she testified, her voice quivering. "He displayed falsified test outcomes, asserted his treatments were effective. We expended our life savings, refinanced our home, all for therapies he knew were futile." Additional former patients came forward, each account contributing to the pattern of deceit. Daisy noted how each testimony struck like physical blows against Devon, who appeared to recede further into his seat. Bonnie McPherson, Courtney's former broker, supplied the financial link. Mrs. Mueller utilized her real estate connections to launder money for Dr. Draper's deceitful fertility practice. Client trust accounts were employed to transfer funds offshore. The evidence accumulated. Bank statements revealing Samuel's methodical depletion of Daisy's father's estate. Records of fabricated identities created for the children. Intercepted communications regarding school registration in Vermont. During a short recess, Sonia consulted with Daisy in a private conference room. "They are disintegrating," she noted. "Courtney's lawyer has already inquired about a plea arrangement." "No deals," Daisy responded firmly. "They chose their path. Now they encounter every consequence." Back in session, Dr. Aidan Compton's testimony regarding Devon's medical fraud elicited gasps from the gallery. Dr. Draper's condition renders fertility impossible. He was aware of this when he commenced providing treatments to desperate couples. The medical board representatives sat in the gallery, their faces stern as they recorded notes. Daisy had ensured they would observe each detail of Devon's deception. Samuel's financial advisor reluctantly disclosed how she had methodically liquidated assets, converting them into untraceable forms. "She asserted it was for the children's future," he testified. "I had no idea she was funding a kidnapping plot." As each witness testified, as each piece of evidence was introduced, Daisy maintained his composed demeanor. He had long understood that genuine power resided not in emotional explosions, but in systematic, unwavering execution of justice. Chief Judge Marcia Bentley's courtroom grew silent as she prepared to issue her ruling. Her reputation for zero tolerance of deception had attracted a full gallery, including many medical professionals eager to witness Devon's ruin. "In my 30 years on the bench," she commenced, her voice cutting through the tension, "I have rarely encountered a case of such deliberate manipulation. These children have existed within an elaborate web of lies woven by the very individuals entrusted with their care." She directed her stern gaze toward Courtney. "Mrs. Mueller, your involvement in this scheme is especially disturbing. As their grandmother, you were meant to safeguard these children. Instead, you conspired to rip them from their father through fraud and deception." Courtney's shoulders trembled with silent weeping, but Daisy's expression stayed impassive. He had seen her performances previously. This was merely another act. "The court grants full custody to Dr. Daisy Mueller," Judge Bentley declared. "Mrs. Mueller's visitation rights will be strictly limited and monitored by court-appointed supervisors." The judge focused on Samuel. "Mrs. Mueller Sr., your role in this conspiracy cannot be ignored. You are hereby prohibited from any contact with the children. Furthermore, all your financial assets will remain frozen pending criminal investigation." Samuel's face, typically meticulously maintained with costly cosmetics, crumpled in defeat. Her lawyer began writing notes frantically, but Daisy knew any appeal would be futile. The evidence was too overpowering. Regarding Dr. Draper, the judge continued, her voice hardening. "This court is forwarding all evidence of medical fraud to the state medical board. Your current suspension will probably become permanent once they assess Dr. Compton's testimony about your falsified fertility treatments." Devon stared straight ahead, his medical career disintegrating before his eyes. The board representatives had already departed to assemble an emergency session. Additionally, Judge Bentley added, "This court is referring evidence of financial crimes to federal prosecutors. The systematic fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping justify serious criminal investigation." Daisy's colleagues from Boston Children's had come to support him. Dr. Bernice Houston, head of pediatric psychology, sat prepared with her preliminary therapy plan for the children. Lola Randolph, who had become a crucial ally, nodded approval at each ruling. After the session, Daisy met with Dr. Houston in her office to discuss the children's care. Her walls exhibited vibrant artwork from young patients who had overcome trauma through therapy. "They will need specialized support," Dr. Houston explained, spreading her proposed treatment plan. "Each child will process this differently. The twins are old enough to comprehend betrayal, while Joseph may struggle with abandonment issues. Whatever they require," Daisy agreed. "Cost is no obstacle." Lola Randolph joined them, contributing her perspective as someone who had assisted children in comparable situations. "The key is preserving stability while they process everything. Routine becomes vital during these transitions." Daisy listened intently, taking notes with the same concentration he applied to complex surgical operations. He would address his children's healing with the same dedication he brought to saving lives. 1 year had passed since the courtroom confrontation. Daisy sat in his home office examining Julian's baseball tournament schedule, maintaining the same exact organization he applied to his surgical calendar. A knock at his door revealed Joanna clutching her newest art project. The therapy sessions with Dr. Houston had promoted creative expression, and Joanna had immersed herself in painting with notable dedication. "Dad." She presented her artwork, an abstract piece filled with interwoven lines and bold colors. "Dr. Houston said I should show you. It's about our family." Daisy examined the painting with the same scrutiny he gave surgical imaging. "Explain it to me," he encouraged, noticing how the chaos of colors gradually resolved into more structured patterns. "The dark sections are the lies," Joanna clarified, indicating turbulent areas. "But see how they're diminishing. Dr. Houston says that's progress." Joseph bounded in, her 6-year-old energy unaltered by the past year's events. Too young to fully comprehend the adult complexities, she had adapted to their new normal with remarkable resilience. "Lola's here," she announced excitedly. "She brought cookies for our therapy homework." Lola Randolph had become more than just a colleague or neighbor. Her comprehension of their situation, born from personal experience, had made her a vital part of their support network. She entered carrying a plate of cookies and her characteristic warm smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, setting down the cookies. The kids wanted to practice their communication exercises. Daisy gestured for her to join them, observing how naturally she engaged with his children. Unlike the manipulative affection they had known from Courtney and Samuel, Lola's warmth was authentic and unforced. The tranquil moment was interrupted by a call from his attorney. Courtney had breached the visitation agreement again, appearing at the children's school with Devin. Daisy's expression hardened as he heard the details. "File for an immediate restraining order," he instructed. "Contact the court-appointed monitors. Her supervised visitation privileges are revoked until further notice." After ending the call, he discovered a letter in his mail, Samuel's latest effort to rationalize her actions. The prison stationery was inexpensive, unlike the costly paper she had once favored. "I only desired what was best for the children," she had written. Devin pledged he could provide them a superior life. Daisy filed the letter with the others in a folder labeled Evidence, a habit from the investigation he had not abandoned. But unlike those dark days of gathering proof, these documents served as reminders of why he had struggled so fiercely. Later that evening, assisting Joanna with her science homework, another genetics project he found ironically fitting, she posed the question he had anticipated. "Dad, are you sad that Mom and Grandma lied?" Daisy weighed his response carefully, aware that Dr. Houston would want them to explore this moment in their next session. "I'm sad they selected lies over truth," he answered honestly. "But I'm thankful because it taught us the most crucial lesson. Real family is constructed on honesty and love, not secrets and schemes." That night, after checking on each sleeping child, a ritual he never skipped, regardless of how late his surgeries ran, Daisy reflected on their journey. The betrayal had cost him a wife, a mother, and a best friend, but it had granted him something far more precious. His office walls now narrated their story, not through Samuel's carefully selected photos, but through his children's therapy art. Among medical diplomas and surgical certifications hung the DNA results that had revealed the truth, framed not as a weapon, but as a testament to the power of facts over deception. Daisy had reconstructed their life on a foundation of truth, demonstrating to his children that integrity, even confronted with betrayal, was the greatest strength they could possess. His relentless pursuit of justice had paved the way for authentic healing, proving that sometimes the harshest truths lead to the most profound recovery. 5 years later, the prestigious Journal of Medical Ethics conference room buzzed with anticipation as Dr. Daisy Mueller approached the podium. His keynote address, Ethics in Medical Practice, A Personal Journey, had attracted an unprecedented audience. Among them sat Dr. Isabella Liu and Dr. Aidan Compton, both now leading figures in medical ethics reform. The foundation of medical practice is not just knowledge or skill. Daisy began with his commanding presence, silencing the room. It is integrity. 5 years ago, my personal experience exposed how deeply deception could corrupt our profession. In the front row, his children watched with pride. Julian and Joanna, now teenagers, had grown into confident young adults under their father's unwavering guidance. Joseph, 11 going on 30, took notes with the same precision she had learned from watching Daisy in his home office. Lola sat beside them, her wedding ring catching the light. Their marriage 2 years ago had not changed the careful way she built relationships with the children. It had simply formalized the family they had already become. The medical board's investigation into Devin Draper's practice had uncovered a network of fraud that stretched across 3 states. His trial had become a landmark case in medicine, leading to stricter protocols for fertility treatment, documentation, and patient care. Dr. Draper's sentencing last month to 15 years for medical fraud, financial crimes, and attempted kidnapping conspiracy serves as a reminder. Daisy continued, "Our profession demands absolute integrity." Devin's fall had been spectacular. After his medical license was permanently revoked, he had attempted to flee to Canada, but was apprehended at the border. The prosecution had presented evidence of similar schemes at 3 previous hospitals, revealing a pattern of exploitation stretching back over a decade. Courtney's fate had been equally severe, though different in nature. Her real estate license revoked, her assets seized. She had been sentenced to 8 years for money laundering and conspiracy. The court-mandated psychiatric evaluation had revealed a personality disorder characterized by pathological lying and manipulation. Daisy maintained detailed records of her attempts to contact the children, each violation of the restraining order, each intercepted letter, and each failed attempt to approach them at school. These documents ensured her supervised visitation rights remained permanently revoked. After his presentation, Daisy met with Lawrence Lewis in the conference hotel's restaurant. The PI had varied his role in exposing the conspiracy into a successful consulting business specializing in medical fraud investigation. "Heard from your mother lately?" Lawrence asked, sliding a folder across the table. "June's last appeal was denied," Daisy replied, reviewing the documents. "She will serve her full 12-year sentence for financial fraud and conspiracy. The forensic accountants are still discovering accounts she has hidden." June's carefully constructed social status had crumbled completely. Her country club friends, hospital charity board members, and social circle had abandoned her. As evidence of her crimes became public, she spent her days in federal prison writing letters that Daisy filed away unread. The case had revolutionized hospital security protocols. Dr. Liu now headed a task force on medical records protection, implementing systems to prevent the kind of manipulation Devin had performed. She had used their case as a teaching tool, showing how technological safeguards could protect patient integrity. "Lola mentioned the twins are looking at medical school," Lawrence commented. Daisy nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Julian is interested in pediatric surgery. Joanna is leaning toward psychiatry. Her experience with Dr. Houston inspired her." Dr. Bernice Houston had become more than just the children's therapist. Her research on parental betrayal and family reconstruction had earned international recognition. The therapy protocol she developed while working with Daisy's children now helped countless families heal from similar traumas. The children's healing had been remarkable, though not without challenges. Julian had channeled his anger into academic excellence, graduating from high school early and diving into pre-med studies. Joanna's art therapy had evolved into a passion for understanding human behavior, leading her toward psychiatry. Joseph, too young to fully remember the trauma, had nonetheless developed an uncanny ability to detect deception. Lola's influence had been crucial to their recovery. Her approach, patient, honest, and consistently supportive, provided the maternal warmth they needed, without any attempt to replace their biological mother. She had supported Daisy's uncompromising stance on contact with Courtney and Samuel, while helping the children process their feelings about the betrayal. The Vermont properties were finally liquidated, Lawrence updated, producing more documents. "The proceeds will be held in trust for the children, though I doubt they will need it. Your surgical practice is more successful than ever." Indeed, Daisy's professional standing had only been enhanced by the scandal. His colleagues admired his ruthless pursuit of truth and justice, while his patients appreciated his unwavering commitment to medical ethics. He had been appointed to the hospital's ethics committee, where he worked to prevent similar frauds from occurring. Later that evening, Daisy sat in his home office updating the family records he still maintained with surgical precision. The latest entries reflected a stability hard-won through uncompromising adherence to truth. Courtney serving year 3 of 8-year sentence. All appeals exhausted, no contact orders maintained. Devin beginning 15-year federal sentence. Medical license permanently revoked in all 50 states. Samuel 12-year sentence upheld. Additional financial crimes still under investigation. Children thriving academically and emotionally. Regular therapy maintained for prevention rather than crisis. Lola, second anniversary approaching. Children's relationships with her continued to strengthen naturally. A knock at his office door revealed Joanna, holding one of her old therapy paintings. "Found this while cleaning my room," she said. "Remember when everything was chaos?" Daisy studied the turbulent artwork from 4 years ago, contrasting it with the confident young woman his daughter had become. "How do you feel looking at it now?" "Grateful," she replied thoughtfully, "not for what they did, but for how you handled it. You showed us that standing for truth matters more than pretending everything is okay." Julian appeared in the doorway, his laptop displaying a medical school application. "Dad, can you review my personal statement? I wrote about how watching you maintain ethical standards influenced my career choice." Joseph joined them carrying her science project. Another genetic study, but this time on genetic markers in cancer prediction. Her interest in medical science had developed naturally, without any pressure from Daisy. Lola completed the family gathering, bringing coffee and her characteristic warmth. The hospital board called, she informed Daisy. "They want you to head the new ethics and medical practice initiative." Daisy surveyed his family, not the one that betrayal had shattered, but the stronger one they built from truth and integrity. The consequences of Courtney, Devin, and June's actions have been severe, but they serve their purpose. No one who witnessed their downfall would dare attempt similar deceptions in Boston's medical community. The scandal had exposed every crack in their seemingly perfect life. But from those breaks, something stronger had emerged. Daisy's ruthless pursuit of justice had not only punished the guilty, but had created a foundation for genuine healing. His phone buzzed. Another update from the prison system. Courtney had attempted to send Christmas cards to the children, violating the no-contact order. Yet again, the cards would join the others in the evidence file, documenting each failed attempt to circumvent the consequences of her choices. "Dad," Joseph's voice drew his attention back. "Can we have dinner on the patio?" Lola made your favorite. Daisy secured the files with practiced efficiency. The past was thoroughly documented but no longer controlled their present. His uncompromising stance had protected his children, allowing them to build new lives unburdened by manipulation and lies. As they gathered for dinner, Daisy observed his family with the same attention he brought to his most complex surgeries. Julian discussing medical ethics, Joanna sharing insights from her psychology studies, Joseph explaining genetic markers with precocious precision, and Lola bringing warmth to their analytical discussions. The consequences of betrayal had rippled through Boston's medical and social communities, serving as a warning to others who might contemplate similar deceptions. But for Daisy's family, those consequences had forged a stronger unit, bound by truth rather than pretense and guided by integrity rather than expedience. That evening, reviewing next week's surgery schedule, Daisy allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His ruthless pursuit of justice had not just punished the guilty. It had created an environment where truth could flourish, showing his children that unwavering integrity, even in the face of betrayal, was the best foundation for a genuine life. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us for more stories like this one. Check out the recommended videos on screen, and I will see you there.